Hey everyone, I'm Mike, an astronomer working for NASA. Now, I know there are some wild rumors out there about aliens and the Earth being flat, but trust me, the truth is way stranger than any of that. Let me tell you about a discovery that still sends chills down my spine. It all started back in 1993, when the Hubble Space Telescope witnessed something unbelievable. A star simply vanished. It didn't explode or fade away, it just went dark in a matter of minutes. This wasn't some massive, well-known star, but its disappearance was still a puzzle. At the time, we figured a dust cloud might have blocked our view, and we moved on. Fast forward to 2007, and things got even creepier. Two more stars blinked out of existence, and this time, they were part of a binary system, two stars orbiting each other. If it were a dust cloud again, they'd disappear together, right? But no, they vanished one by one, hours apart. And these stars were closer to Earth than the one from '93. After digging through tons of Hubble images, we found two more stars that had pulled the same disappearing act in 1995 and 2002. They were all in the same cosmic neighborhood, just a few light years apart. It was like something was moving through space, cloaking or destroying these stars. But Hubble couldn't give us any more clues. Enter the James Webb Space Telescope. It's way more powerful than Hubble, and one of the first things we did was to take a closer look at where those stars used to be. We hoped maybe they were just hidden behind dust clouds, but no luck. They were completely gone. But here's the kicker. Our instruments detected that the mass in those regions of space had actually increased. And get this, there were these weird string-like connections between these invisible stars. It was like they were linked by some kind of cosmic web. When we focused on the binary system from 2007, the closest one to Earth, we finally got some readings, but they were bizarre. The stars were incredibly cold, almost as cold as space itself. And the elements detected, most of them were completely unknown to us. It was like this massive structure was made of something we couldn't even comprehend. Theories flew around. Was it some kind of alien megastructure? Maybe a Dyson sphere, a hypothetical structure built around a star to capture all its energy? It seemed like we had finally found proof of extraterrestrial life, but the pieces didn't quite fit. How could something be built so quickly in a matter of minutes? And what about those weird filaments connecting the stars? No one could explain it. Then, just a few weeks ago, we detected massive energy bursts coming from a star system about 12 light years away from the vanished binary stars. It was like someone was fighting back against whatever this thing was. We saw explosions billions of times stronger than any human weapon, trying to slow it down. But it was no use. We watched in horror as this thing, this cosmic web, enveloped another star right before our eyes. And as the shadows converged, blocking out the star's light, we saw them. Leaves. It was a plant. A gigantic, unimaginable plant stretching across light years, feeding on stars. Those filaments, they were stems, branches reaching out to devour more stars. The room was silent as the realization sunk in. This wasn't some advanced alien technology. It was a cosmic weed, and it was heading straight for our solar system. We did the calculations, and the estimate was grim. 27 years. That's all we had before this thing reached our sun, plunging Earth into an eternal winter. I know this sounds crazy, but I had to share it. When the sky goes dark and the world starts to freeze, at least you'll know why. Last Halloween was supposed to be a night of fun, but it turned into a night I'll never forget. It all started with a late shift at Shoe City, the shoe store tucked away in the corner of the bustling Lakeside Mall. I was stuck stocking shelves for minimum wage, counting down the minutes until I could clock out. My phone buzzed with a text from my friend, Jake. "Dude, you coming tonight or what?" he asked, referring to his Halloween party. I'd been avoiding the question all day. Honestly, after work, all I wanted to do was crash in bed. But Jake's party was the place to be, and after a little more persuasion, I caved. With a sigh, I told Jake I'd be there. I just had to finish my shift, grab a quick costume, and maybe down a few drinks to get in the party spirit. The mall was practically deserted by the time I finished closing up. As I made my way to my car, I noticed a guy standing near the entrance. He was wearing a creepy devil mask, red latex with a pointy nose and an exaggerated smile. It was a little unsettling, but I figured it was just some guy getting into the Halloween spirit. I shrugged it off and headed to the Halloween store to find a costume. The place was a mess, with shelves almost bare and decorations scattered everywhere. As I searched for something, anything to wear, the music suddenly cut off, leaving an eerie silence. Then I saw him again, the guy in the devil mask. He was standing at the end of an aisle, just watching me. My heart pounded in my chest. I tried to ignore him, grabbing a Jason mask and rushing to the checkout. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was following me. I kept glancing over my shoulder, expecting to see him, but he was always gone. By the time I got to Jake's party, I was a nervous wreck. The party was in full swing, with music blasting and people dancing everywhere. Jake greeted me with a beer and dragged me into a game of beer pong. For a while, I actually managed to relax and have some fun. But then I saw him again, the devil mask, standing in the living room watching me. I felt a surge of anger and pushed through the crowd, determined to confront him. But he vanished before I could reach him. I tried to tell myself it was just a prank, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. I left the party early, my mind racing with questions. Who was this guy? Why was he following me? When I got home, the house was quiet. My parents must have been asleep. I headed for my room, wanting nothing more than to forget the whole night. But then I heard it, a slow, steady drip, and a strange metallic smell. I followed the sound to the kitchen, where I saw something that made my blood run cold. My parents were sitting at the kitchen table, their heads gone. And there he was, the devil, standing in the corner, holding their heads in his hands. Blood dripped from the severed necks, splattering onto the floor. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. I just stared in horror as he held their heads up like trophies, his cold eyes fixed on me. I turned and ran, not stopping until I was blocks away. I called the police, my voice trembling as I described the scene. When they arrived, the house was empty. The devil was gone. They never found him. That was last Halloween, a night that changed my life forever. I'm still terrified that he'll come back, that I'll see that mask again. There are those moments in life you never forget, where you were, what you were doing. Like many Americans, I remember 9/11 vividly. For me, another unforgettable moment was the day my parents died. It was a snowy January evening, and the news hit me like a ton of bricks. I was close to my parents. My dad, a college professor, always emphasized the importance of education. My mom, a nurse, instilled in me a strong sense of compassion. They were the best role models a kid could ask for. Their car slid off the icy road and crashed, killing them instantly. I was miles away at college, hanging out with friends, when I got the call. It felt like the world stopped spinning. After the funeral, my brother Mark and I went to their house to sort through their belongings. The familiar scent of the place brought back a flood of memories, Christmas mornings, birthdays, all those happy times. We decided to split up the work. Mark took the upstairs, and I tackled the main floor and the basement. I had a bit of a phobia about the basement, thanks to a childhood accident where I tumbled down the stairs and broke both my legs. After hours of sorting through boxes and old furniture, I finally braved the basement. The musty smell and the sight of the narrow staircase brought back that old fear, but I pressed on. I found some old holiday decorations, a binder full of my childhood Pokemon cards, which brought a smile to my face, and some other odds and ends. Just as I was about to give up, I spotted a small brown box tucked away in a corner. Inside were several unmarked videotapes. Curiosity piqued, I grabbed the box and headed back upstairs. Mark was lounging on the couch, puffing on one of Dad's cigars. I couldn't help but feel a little annoyed. Why in the world would you put that dusty old box on the coffee table? Mark complained. I ignored him and pulled out the first tape. Want to watch some home movies and laugh at how dorky we were as kids? I asked. Mark pointed out that we didn't have a VHS player anymore, but I had a plan. I remembered the secret compartment I'd built in my old room to hide my stash of, well, let's just say teenage boy stuff. And luckily, my old VHS player was still there. We found an old TV in the attic, hooked everything up, and popped in the first tape. The image was grainy and dark at first, but then a light flickered on, revealing a scene that made our blood run cold. Two figures in white coats and masks stood over a young boy lying lifeless on a bed. Then a third figure emerged from the shadows, tall, lanky, with unnaturally long limbs and a tiny head. It didn't look human. Mark wanted to turn it off, but I was transfixed. The creature leaned over the boy, its long purple tongue snaking out to caress his cheek. "Turn it off, Chris?" Mark yelled. I finally snapped out of it and paused the tape. "Mark, look in the background," I said, pointing to a framed picture on the wall. "Doesn't that look like the picture in the basement?" Mark squinted at the screen. "Yeah, I guess so." We hit play again, and the creature continued its bizarre ritual. It traced a long, sharp nail across the boy's cheek, leaving a visible cut. "Mark," I said, my voice shaking, "your scar." Mark's eyes widened. The cut on the boy's cheek was eerily similar to a scar he had, supposedly from a childhood bike accident. He never remembered the accident clearly, but now... We watched in stunned silence as the creature finished whatever it was doing and then abruptly left the room. The figures in white turned off the camera, and the screen went to static. "What the heck was that, Chris?" Mark exclaimed, his voice filled with disbelief and fear. I looked at the remaining tapes in the box, a shiver running down my spine. "There are 3 more," I said, "but I'm almost afraid to see what's on them." As we sat there trying to process what we'd just witnessed, we heard a noise from downstairs, a dragging sound coming from the basement. We exchanged a nervous glance. The dragging sound grew louder, closer. It was definitely coming from the basement. My heart pounded in my chest. I grabbed a heavy iron poker from beside the fireplace, just in case. "Stay here," I whispered to Mark, though I wasn't sure if I wanted him to or not. Slowly I crept towards the basement door, each creak of the floorboards sounding like a gunshot in the silence. I gripped the poker tighter, my knuckles turning white. I reached the door and hesitated. What was I about to find down there? Was it some animal, a burglar, or something else? Taking a deep breath, I flung the door open and flicked on the light. The dim bulb illuminated the dusty basement, but I couldn't see anything out of the ordinary. The dragging sound had stopped. I cautiously descended the stairs, my senses on high alert. As I reached the bottom, I noticed something strange. The framed picture of my parents, the one that had been hanging beneath the window, was now lying on the floor, its glass shattered. A cold dread washed over me. I scanned the room, searching for the source of the disturbance. And then I saw it. A small, furry creature was huddled in the corner, its back to me. It looked like a kitten. Relief washed over me. It was just a stray cat that had somehow gotten into the basement. I approached it cautiously, and it turned to face me. And that's when I screamed. It wasn't a cat. It was something else entirely. Its eyes were huge and black, its fur matted and dirty, and its mouth was filled with rows of sharp, needle-like teeth. The creature let out a hiss, a sound that sent shivers down my spine. I raised the poker, ready to defend myself, but the creature darted forward with incredible speed. I swung the poker, but I missed. The creature leaped onto my chest, its claws digging into my skin. I cried out in pain and fell backwards, the poker clattering to the floor. The creature snarled, its hot breath on my face. I closed my eyes, bracing for the worst. But the attack never came. Instead, I heard a yelp, followed by a thud. I opened my eyes to see Mark standing over the creature, a baseball bat in his hand. The creature lay motionless on the floor. Mark helped me up, his face pale. "What was that thing?" he asked, his voice trembling. I shook my head, my mind reeling. "I don't know," I whispered, "but I think we need to get out of here." We left the basement, leaving the creature behind. We didn't know what to do with it or what it was. We just knew we wanted to be as far away from it as possible. We left the house and drove to a nearby motel. We didn't sleep that night, our minds filled with images of the creature and the strange videotapes. The next day, we went back to the house to collect the rest of our belongings. We didn't go back into the basement. We just wanted to forget the whole thing ever happened. But we couldn't. The memory of the creature and the mystery of the videotapes haunted us for years to come. We never found out what the creature was or where it came from, and we never watched the rest of the tapes. We were too afraid of what we might see. My job at Retrovision is pretty cool. We take old films and TV shows and convert them to digital formats. It's usually routine, but sometimes I stumble across mislabeled or lost tapes. That's when things get interesting. One day, while working on a huge archive for a major TV network, I found a box tucked away between two shelves. It was full of unmarked tapes, just a jumble of old network logos. The archivist told me the previous guy in my position had quit without any explanation, leaving this box behind. Intrigued, I took the box back to the office. It was Friday afternoon, and I was the only one left. I figured I'd take a quick peek at the tapes before heading out. I started with the first one, which had a vintage BBC logo from the late 70s. It turned out to be an old episode of a popular antiques show, but with a different host than I remembered. As I watched, it dawned on me that this was an unaired pilot episode. Sometimes producers change their minds about the host or the direction of a show before it airs, and this must have been one of those cases. The episode started out normally enough. The host, a charismatic guy named, let's say, James, appraised a silver tea set and some old sketches. But then things took a strange turn. The last item brought in for appraisal was an intricate wooden box with exposed gears and cogs. James seemed fascinated by it, but as he examined it closer, his expression changed. He looked distressed, almost in pain. Suddenly, he started scratching at his face, his fingernails digging into his skin. I watched in horror as he clawed at his forehead, drawing blood. It was like he was going mad. The crew tried to intervene, but it was too late. James collapsed, his face a bloody mess. The camera zoomed in on the gruesome scene, and I felt a chill run down my spine. I couldn't believe what I had just witnessed. It was so disturbing, so real. I tried to find information about the host online, but it was like he never existed. Just as I was about to check out the other tapes, my phone rang. The voice on the other end sounded strange, slow, and raspy. "Is this David?" he asked. "Yes, who's this?" I replied, still shaken from the horrific images I'd seen. "My name is Calvin," the voice said, "and you have something that belongs to me." I glanced out the window and noticed a strange reflection in the parking garage across the street. My heart started to race. "We can't unsee things," Calvin continued, "but the mind can be forced to forget." I heard a metallic clinking sound in the background, like someone tapping utensils together. Then I noticed the elevator ding, indicating it had arrived on my floor. My fear spiked. I grabbed the box of tapes and ran for the back exit, hoping to escape before whoever was on the elevator reached me. I burst through the back door into the cool night air, clutching the box of tapes. I could hear the elevator ding again and footsteps approaching. Panic surged through me. I had to get out of there. I sprinted across the parking lot, my heart pounding in my chest. I could hear the footsteps getting closer. I glanced over my shoulder and saw a figure emerge from the building, silhouetted against the dim light. I didn't stop running. I weaved through parked cars, my lungs burning. I could hear the person shouting something, but I couldn't make out the words. Finally, I reached my car, fumbling with the keys in my haste. I unlocked the door, threw myself inside, and slammed it shut. I jammed the key into the ignition and roared out of the parking lot, tires screeching. I didn't look back. I just drove, putting as much distance between myself and that building as possible. I didn't go home that night. I checked into a motel, my mind racing. Who was that guy? What did he want? And what was the deal with those tapes? The images from the pilot episode replayed in my mind, making my stomach churn. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in danger. The next morning, I called my boss and told him I was taking a few days off. I needed time to think, to figure out what to do. I considered going to the police, but what could I tell them? That I found some old tapes with a disturbing scene on them? They'd probably think I was crazy. I decided to do some more research. I spent hours online searching for any information about the tapes, the host, anything that could shed some light on this mystery. But I found nothing. It was like the whole thing had been erased from history. Days turned into weeks, and the fear gradually subsided. I eventually went back to work, but I couldn't bring myself to touch those tapes again. They remained locked away in a storage closet, a chilling reminder of the night I stumbled upon a secret I wasn't meant to see. And sometimes, late at night, I still think I hear the metallic clinking sound, like someone tapping utensils together, a haunting echo from a past I can't escape.